Click to Learn More, the show that sounds like clickbait,
but it's actually two dorks.
I'm Lidi.
I'm Dorm.
And Dorm.
Yes.
Tonight, we are going to talk about Joan of Arc.
Oh.
Also, I realized why this might be like a little weird moment, because it's Friday. We're recording on a Friday, where we normally record on a Tuesday.
Yeah, should we just preface this by saying we're both tired and it's weird?
We're tired and we're weird right now.
There's a lot of weird energy in the room.
We're weird right now. We don't know what's going on. Dorm and I fought for 45 minutes about the blinds being closed.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to leave them open so all the beautiful sunshine at 9
I had them
p.m.
open
could get
earlier
in.
because of the sun.
He wanted that 9 p.m. that choice.
Defending my earlier actions.
That choice 9 p.m. sun. Wanted to make sure that got in real quick.
And you wanted them closed.
And I wanted
the
them
brick
closed
wall
so
next
that all
to
the
us
people
couldn't see us.
all the people that follow me everywhere I go can't peek at me.
All those paparazzos that are the brick wall next to us.
No, I'm being oh man, that's called something and I can't remember what it is. People will follow you around and you get basically gaslit. Gaslit?
Gaslit?
Gaslighted?
Gaslighted? I actually don't know. I think it would be gaslighted, right?
But anyway.
Passersby.
Yeah. So we're gonna
sleepwalked.
Speaking of hearing and seeing things that aren't there, we're gonna talk about Joan of Arc tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know how that relates. Can I tell you my only frame of reference for Arc to Joan?
Of course.
Beautiful. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Kind of fantastic. I think Mila Jovovich played her in a movie.
That's Mila Jovovich? Oh, okay.
Well, it's not that one.
That's Mila Jovovich?
I don't know if it's that one, but she played her once in a movie, I think.
She does aerobics in Bill and Ted's Excellent. Have you ever seen Bill and Ted?
Forever ago.
It's fantastic.
I don't remember.
Great movie. I watch it all the time.
Much of anything about it. Are they doing a remake?
Yeah, they're doing a new Bill and Ted. I liked Bogus Journey more as a kid.
Was it the second one?
Yes.
They only did two?
Yeah. It's terrible now. But I liked it more as a kid because they played games with the devil. Or with death, technically. With
death? Which one was it Abraham Lincoln in? Was he in the first one?
That was Excellent Adventure. Yeah. Excellent Adventure is them time traveling to do a history report for their class. Bogus Journey is robot
Just
Bill and Ted.
What?
Come back and kill original Bill and Ted, and then original Bill and Ted have to make their way back to life.
Huh.
Great movies.
Okay. So some of my sources from tonight, or for tonight's episode, or today's, or this morning's, or whenever you're listening or watching. History.com, Britannica.com, Biography Online, Biography, National Geographic, and of course, Wikipedia.
The salt to our recipe.
Yes, the flavor that we're lacking in our personalities. So Joan of Arc...
So we're not lacking in salt.
Yeah, we got plenty of that. The Joan of Arc was nicknamed the Maid of Orleans. By the way, it's French, so it's got like the little like accent above the E, so I don't know if it's Orleans, or I'm thinking of it as New Orleans or New Orleans or
Nolans.
New Orleans. So she's the maid of that word that's French that I can't say because I am classless. She's considered a heroine of France for her role during the Lancastrian phase of the 100 Years' War. So the dispute began over who would be heir to the French throne. Okay. So we had a couple people like, I'm going to be the heir to it, and someone else was like, no, I'm going to be the heir to it. So that's how the 100 Years' War started.
And that's where the Jordan Sparks song "No Air" came from.
Absolutely, yeah. And she was canonized as a Roman Catholic saint in 1920. She's actually referred to as Saint Joan of Arc.
What does canonized mean?
So canonized just means that she was turned into, like, she was considered a, like when you get knighted. Now, all of a sudden, oh, you're a knight now. Like, everybody will refer to you as sir. She's canonized in the eyes of the church. It just means that she's a saint now.
Got it.
So you just you're that now.
She's part of the canon.
Yeah, she's part of the canon in the story, yeah. She's one of 9 of the secondary patron saints of France. So when I first started doing research on her, I didn't realize that she was actually a saint. I figured she was a martyr because I've heard her referred to as a martyr before, but I never knew she was actually a saint. And it's weird that it was in 1920 that she was canonized because her story takes place in like the 1400s. So it took that long for her to become canonized as what we know today as being the Saint Joan of Arc.
Wonder if that's because that's the same year women got the right to vote in the U.S.
I don't know, but
Same exact year, 1920.
That's really a good point though, because she was considered like a feminist icon in a way because she like was a very strong feminine or a very strong female, not necessarily feminine. So in a nutshell, here's her story.
Okay.
So she was born around 1412. They're not entirely sure exactly the date of any time that happened in the 1400s. You're never really sure.
Sure.
She was a peasant girl who would lead the French army in a momentous victory against the English during the 100 Years' War in what she believed to be an act of divine guidance. Meaning, aka, much like the Blues Brothers, she was on a mission from God.
Yeah.
So, Joan of Arc, Blues Brothers, pretty much the same.
diff.
It's pretty much the same thing. A year after the success, Joan was burned to death at the stake and labeled a heretic by the English and their French collaborators, and she was around 19 years old when she died.
Jesus.
Yeah, so she was very young, and she was not a great way to go.
No.
I'd say. On the top, like, 3 ways to go. Not listed, I don't think. Burning alive
What are
at
the
the
top
stake.
3?
Peacefully in my sleep.
This got very personal.
Snuggled to death by cats.
Okay.
And then the third one is exploding like a piñata.
Ah.
And in that one, candy does fly out of me.
Okay. Is it sort of is it an implosion or an explosion?
No, it's definitely an explosion.
Okay.
There's definitely, there's viscera involved.
And candy.
Yeah.
Or
It's
is that the candy in your mind?
Oh, no. You don't eat it. No, it's just for show.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just for decoration.
Classic inedible show candy.
Just the show candy. Just the guts show candy. So who was she? I'll tell you. Joan was a young girl in medieval France. She believed that she had been chosen by God to lead France to victory over England. Now, from an early age, I think around 13 or 14, she displayed a sensitive and religious temperament. And it's said by friends that she, quote, was greatly committed to the service of God and the Blessed Mary. Yeah, so
I have a question.
She was very pious, yeah.
What is the difference between medieval and medieval?
I think it's the same thing.
Okay.
I just say it.
Because they're different words.
Are they?
There's like Mideival, right? And then
Ieval?
maybe
Medieval? Maybe it's just like a British pronunciation and as opposed
maybe, yeah.
So maybe like color with the U and color without a U?
Could be, yeah. Or it could just always be medieval, and I just always said medieval.
Oh, I don't know. I've always said medieval, but I've heard people say medieval.
I've said medieval.
Medieval?
Like M-I-D.
Like in the middle of evil?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know why. There's that PS1 game called Medieval.
No, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I don't know,
you're a
sorry.
knight
That was
that's
a total
in hell
derailment. It
in
wasn't
that
meant
one.
to be.
Her surname of Arc, or de Arc, or, in French, was nothing more than an educated guess as to her father's surname. So normally when it's Joan of Arc or of something, it's she's from there. Mm-hmm. No. They think that might have possibly been her dad's last name. They don't really know. And when she was questioned at one of her trials that we'll talk about, she actually said, I don't know what my last name is. She's like, I don't even know.
Weird.
She didn't even know. She's like, I don't know. She's like, I have no idea.
Huh.
Yep. So she learned domestic skills from her mother, as well as piety and a care for animals. At a young age, she began to have visions that encouraged her to live a pious life. Now, over time, the visions became more and more vivid, and she claimed to have received visions of the Archangel Michael, Saint Margaret, and Saint Catherine of Alexandria, instructing her to support Charles VII, but he wasn't really called that yet, like Charles VII. He just was like
Charlie.
Yeah, he's just like Chuck. He's just like little Chuck.
Little Chuck.
Little Chuck wants to be king someday.
I'm just picturing like a very short kid.
a little chubby kid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm Chuck. Yeah, that's what I imagined too. And she was told to recover France from the English domination late in the 100 Years' War. So that's what she believed. She believed this was her life goal. Her mission was to save France.
Gotcha.
Something that I found that was interesting was that Saint Catherine was also, she also was a martyr. She also died at a young age. She died at 18, I think.
Okay.
So it would be interesting that specific saint, she would imagine that specific saint speaking to her. And they also said that she had received a vision from Saint Catherine that told her that she had one of 6 swords, I think, and she told her that it was behind the church, and she's like, that's where your sword will be. So Joan contacted the church and was like, hey, my sword is behind your church, can you get it and send it to me? And they went out back, and sure enough, there was a sword buried behind the church that was rusted and gross. They got it out, cleaned it up, and sent it to her.
Holy crap. Literally.
Isn't that weird?
That's wild, yeah.
I don't know. We'll talk a little bit more about what she might have seen or heard or didn't see or hear, but
yeah.
That's a weird thing Because she had to, and and also maybe she just told the story,
right? Yeah,
or maybe that story got circulated in some way. Maybe the church told it to try
Telephone could have happened.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, that's still a cool story, though.
No, yeah, that's really cool.
Regardless, so she said, this is a quote from her trial transcript. I was 13 when I had a voice from God for my help and guidance. The first time I heard this voice, I was very much frightened. It was midday in the summer in my father's garden. So she recounts the first time she heard the voices in her head, and she would see colors and stuff. Now, the visions made her even more religiously inclined, and she would frequently go to confession, and it said that whenever she heard the bells for Mass, she would immediately drop whatever she was doing and run to church. So she'd take off. She's like, gotta get there. Gotta go fast.
Which is me with everything I'm ever supposed to do in my life. But
when I'm like, oh, God,
I have to be somewhere an hour ago.
When I'm like, oh, God, it's 10 a.m. and I'm supposed to be at work at 9, and I just woke up. Well, 5 more minutes won't hurt,
Yeah. I'm already late.
So just imagine, but also this is kind of weird to me too, right? Like, we're gonna have a lot of like these stories that supposedly happened, but if she were so pious and she was dying to go to church, wouldn't she know
the schedule? Right.
The schedule, wouldn't she know the time of day? Like, maybe she perhaps couldn't read, but she could look at the time of day and kind of get an idea of when it was gonna happen, right?
Yeah, I would think so too.
I don't know. It's just something.
Unless French church was just at random,
and it was just like, it's 2 p.m. today, boys. Let's light it up.
Roll the dice.
Yeah, I don't know. It just struck me as like you would think at a certain time of day she would know, but anyway. In May of 1428, her visions told her to contact Robert and I'm not going to be able to say this guy's name just in advance. Robert de Baudricourt. Baudricourt. Baudricourt is how I want to say it, but it's French, so I imagine it doesn't have a T. The garrison commander and supporter of Charles Chucky, soon to be Charles V or 7th. Sorry. At first, he refused what he considered to be a ridiculous request because she contacted him and she was like, "Hey, what's up? You need to get me to Charles." And he was like, "You're ridiculous and you're an idiot girl, and I'm not going to take you to Charles." But he saw that the villagers liked her. So the villagers were like gathered around, were like, just let her go. Like, why won't you let her go? Like, she brought about like a lot of confidence with the villagers. They knew her really well. She was saying she's got these crazy visions about how to save France from England. All the villagers were like, yo, what if?
Right. They're desperate for an answer.
Yeah, they want some kind of help, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so the guy was like, fine, we'll take you.
Sure.
No big deal. So he finally relented. He gave her a horse and several soldiers to escort her to see him.
Wow.
So she cut her hair short and wore men's clothes for the 11-day journey across enemy territory. There's kind of different opinions on why she wore men's clothes. Some people said it made her less likely to get sexually assaulted because it was harder, like she could get away, I guess, which is a terrible thing to have to think about.
Oh, Jesus.
But I think she knew she was going to go into war. Like, she cut her hair short. She's going to put some no-nonsense clothes on. She knows she's going to wear... Like,
she's battle ready.
Yeah, she's battle ready, especially if what she's imagining in her head, if the visions that she's seeing, if they're true, she knows she's going to have to go to war. Yeah. So she's getting ready. So upon her arrival, she professed she could save France. Now, naturally, Charles is going to be a little bit dubious about this proposal.
Sure.
Hey, what's up? I'm 18 and I'm gonna save France.
Yeah.
Who are you? Oh, I milk cows. That's what I do.
Right.
I'm a peasant girl that
trust me.
That milks cows and has some chickens. But just trust me, me and God, we've been talking. I'm gonna save France.
Right.
Like, imagine that. Imagine being the guy who's gonna go, no, I don't think I'm gonna trust you.
Sure.
You've been hitting the mead. Joan won him over when she identified him out of a crowd of members of his court. Now, I like to imagine that he was just like over in the corner with like a cloak up on his head with those big giant plastic glasses and a fake mustache on.
It looks like Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, and she was like, you, and he was like,
how did you know?
She does have the gift, Like, I imagine he was like, or he was like in a crowd of like peasants, but he's wearing his finery and like gold thread in his clothes, and she's like, it's obviously you, you're the king, and he was like,
what, me? But I'm one of them.
Me, but I'm one of the people.
You wear a crown on.
Yeah, you're literally wearing a crown and holding a scepter that says King Charles for life. Like, of course we know it's you. You know what I mean? Like
Chuck the Canuck. It's a France joke.
Yeah, that's it. You did it. You did the one joke we can do.
France is the country above us, right?
Yeah, that's that one. That's on that one. I like the idea of the thinking that he just looked so obviously out of place.
Yeah.
And she was like
the easiest Where's Waldo
she was like,
ever.
"It's you," and he was like, like I love that idea.
He has a shirt that says Charles.
Yeah, he's wearing a shirt that says Charles for King, like 14 whatever, you know, like they don't they don't know the dates at that point. Nobody's keeping track. Nobody can read.
It's just like a sun. And
he's got like a little thumbs up emoji on there with like a little picture of him smiling. That's what I imagine it was.
I love that we have like a screen printed shirt in the 1400s of all the anachronisms.
Yeah, that's what I imagine.
That's the funniest one.
That's what I imagine it was, and I imagine that he was like super surprised that she got it. Or maybe he just like wasn't wearing. Oh, it was the Emperor's new clothes situation. He wasn't wearing any clothes, and she's like, it's the naked one, and they're all like, how'd she know? She got him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Charles and Joan had a private conversation, and it's believed that Joan revealed details. So imagine this: this girl just picked you out of a crowd.
Yeah.
She says she's going to save France.
Okay.
She takes you into this room. You're having a conversation, and she says, "You prayed to God, and here's what you said in your prayer." And she told him the prayer that he had said to God.
What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he prayed for God to save France and send someone to save France. And she told him what the prayer was.
Right. I'm your answer.
And but also keep this in mind. He's the king or he wants to be the king. Yeah. And France is overrun by the English. What's the one prayer
the odds are
that you're not gonna wish for food for the homeless and for the peasants?
Yeah,
you're gonna want the crown.
Right.
You're gonna want your country.
Yeah.
So that kind of feels like it's pretty easy. Like if I walk up to you and your arm's broken and I'm gonna go, "You've prayed to have your arm not hurt anymore." Like you're gonna go, "How'd you know?
What?
How could you figure it out?"
You have to be for real.
That's almost in a way like what psychics do, or quote unquote psychics do, when it's like a cold reading or whatever they call it, when they look at you and like figure out something about you and they call you on it and you're like shocked and amazed.
Yeah.
Of course he was praying for God to save France. Like
I do have a question about this. How much of this is just okay, so you know how they always say like the people who win wars get to write the history of it.
Right.
How much of this is just the church respinning this?
Right.
And how much of it actually, quote unquote, happened? I'm sure we'll never know. But
so also the fact that it's a private conversation. So
if she didn't say it and he didn't say it,
so it's in history as a quote private conversation that these two had. So did she come out and say, "Hey, I told him about this prayer that he had, and he was totally blown away by me"?
Right.
Or did he come out and say, "She's who she says she is," because he's wanting so desperately to have somebody save France that he's like, everybody just believe her. And if she goes off to war and she dies, that's no skin off his back because she's an 18-year-old girl that threw herself to it, you know? Like, it's a win-win for either of them at that point because he's not going to care. So, still unsure, though, because he wasn't really positive yet. He did the only logical thing. He had clergymen examine her to see if she was a witch.
Of course.
Now, they reported back that she wasn't at all improper, and she was, in fact, pious, chaste, and humble. And I'm just going to go on I've done a lot of detours, but I'm just going to go on a little detour here for a second.
Okay.
Because this is a point that I thought about, and it might be an alarming one. They didn't think that she was a witch because she was a virgin. Yeah. Virgins couldn't be witches. But how did they know she was a virgin?
Oh, good question.
Unless it was just take your word for it.
Yeah.
Like how? I don't know.
Have you done the deed?
Have you gotten down?
Have you committed whoopee?
Have you gotten jiggy with it?
Have you boogie woogie bugle boy?
Why is this what they sound like?
I don't know. It's what every old 1400s Frenchman sounds like. He hosts a game show in the 60s on the BBC.
Why is this what the clergymen sound like to you?
Do you know?
Do you happen?
The Muffin Man.
And also they're French, and we're giving them like this really weird, stilted British accent.
It's almost better than giving them a bad French accent, though.
Oh yeah, I can't do a French accent to save my life.
Oh.
No, see, this is a problem.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's better that we're just doing something off the wall.
Have you ever been introduced to a baguette?
Oh.
Has anyone buttered your baguette?
You said that like it was relevant.
you ever buttered a baguette before?
Oh.
That's good. It's a funny euphemism. It's like a funny French euphemism people say about sex and virgins and witches. That's like a thing people do.
You know, when those come up all the time.
Has anybody ever escargoted down on you? My brain cells.
I'm sorry about the waveform. Oh, the audio's gonna be shit, but it was funny. The split second where you were like trying to think of it, and then you're like, I've got it, and mid-sentence you realized you didn't have it again, was the funniest roller coaster of emotions I've ever been on. Shit. Oh, that might be cut. I can't cut it though. It's too funny.
Play back the tape. Roll it back. Because the look on your face, the look on your face was so like expectant. Like,
yeah,
like
I was riding with you.
Like you've got it. Let's go. And I realized halfway through I had failed you. So I just had to jump at the
end. It's a weird day.
At the end of that ledge, I just had to jump. Okay, Joan of Arc. Real lady. Got burned to death. Not funny. Okay.
You're saying this while I'm mid-laugh. It's helping. All right.
We're just gonna cut that part and make it look like you're a jerk.
Aww.
With only her personality and strong will and absolutely zero military training, she convinced the Crown Prince Charles of Valois to let her lead a French army to the city of Orleans, which was located southwest of Paris. So I had to look it up to get kind of like an idea of where it was.
Yeah.
So it's southwest of Paris.
Gotcha.
Which makes a little, like I still know.
So closer to England.
I know geography.
I think.
I don't know.
I don't know geography very well either.
Now, despite being known as a warrior, she never actually participated in active combat, and instead she worked behind the scenes to outline strategy and direction for French troops, as well as lead them into battle. So she also proposed multiple diplomatic solutions to the English, all of which they rejected, because they're not going to listen to an 18-year-old girl on horseback going, God told me that you should do this!
Yeah.
Because they're going to be like, cool, whatever. Did you hear that crazy broad talking about God talking to her?
Can you believe that?
Can you believe?
That's the English. That's the English in this world.
Frasier? That sounded like Frasier. It sounded like Niles Crane. What is? He sounded like Frasier Crane. We're out of control.
Yeah, where's the weird one?
This is gonna be.
Get me.
This is we get the weird ones at late at night.
Give me David Hyde Pierce. Isn't that guy's name?
David Hyde Pierce.
Hyde Pierce. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Something's up. So she ended up being more of a mascot for this whole movement.
Sure.
And she would hold up her banner instead of a weapon. So and by the way, it doesn't tell you what the banner was. I just really hope that it just said like Joan of Arc, and she like did it herself in Sharpie, and she just waved it around above her head, like gonna save ya, like
yeah, that's good.
God sent me, like a smiley at the end of it, like waving it around, you know. But she's quoted as saying, "I loved my banner 40 times better than my sword," because remember she did have a sword,
right? Of course,
she just didn't want to use it because God gave her a sword. And when I went against my enemy, I carried my banner myself, lest I kill any. I've never killed a man. Plenty of women. Yeah. No, I'm just... She never killed anybody. So she went into war never killing anyone. Now, regardless, she was injured at least twice. Okay. That is on record. Once taking a crossbow bolt to the thigh. Oh! And another time taking an arrow in the shoulder or chest area. Ooh. And there's... I don't know how true it is, if it was just made up to make her sound more intimidating, or if this is an actual thing. Yeah. But it's said that she removed the arrow from her chest or her arm, applied something to it, and kept going.
That's awesome.
So that struck fear into the heart of the English, because they thought God really did send her.
Yeah, we can't take her down.
Yeah, she really is a messenger for God, and we can't kill her. Think about this, though. Would she not be the target?
Oh, yeah, with this huge banner?
First of all, huge banner. Second of all, God told her that she's going to be the one that leads the French to victory. Right, yeah. So, would she not have a target on her back?
Take out their key player.
Would they not send assassins after her, like, to get rid of her? Yeah. It seems like if they had, they might have been It's pretty big. And you never heard of it, but England is a small country. Anyways. She reportedly fell from a siege ladder, so clumsy, and once had a heavy rock thrown at her head, rude, but luckily she had a helmet on, and it blocked the blow.
Okay.
Who looks at a person with a helmet on and goes, you know, it'd be great if I killed you with a rock to the head.
If I actually put that helmet to use.
Somebody didn't know how to
test the strength of that
Somebody didn't know how rocks or helmets work.
Man, Dwayne Johnson doesn't like being called heavy, so please don't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to get beat up. And he'll just punch me in the face and say, you're welcome.
Yep, that classic rock line. You're welcome.
That's from Moana.
And then he raises his eyebrow.
It's from Moana. It's a song called You're Welcome. You're supposed to yes and me.
Sorry. I was making a wrestling reference. Is this improv now?
Yeah, we're improving.
Oh, okay.
That's what this whole show is. All these facts are made up. None of this stuff. Don't matter. None of this stuff's ever been true. I hope you're not telling anybody this stuff. It's never been true.
Yeah.
In a series of battles that lasted over 9 days, the French troops took control of the English fortifications. So she was wounded, but she would return to the front line to encourage a final assault. And finally, the French had defeated the English.
Hey.
So
she did it.
She did it.
She didn't lie.
She came through on her promise that she was going to be the one to deliver them into success and like save the day, kind of.
Yeah.
Now, some quick info about the city of Orleans. In 52 BCE, it was conquered by Julius Caesar.
Oh, hey. That guy.
Mm-hmm.
Jules.
Julie boy. It became an intellectual capital under Charlemagne.
Okay.
And in the 10th and 11th and in the 10th and 11th centuries, it was the most important city in France after Paris. So it was a big deal.
Yeah.
The city was a big deal.
That makes sense why they would call the one here New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. After it had been besieged for 7 months by the English, St. Joan of Arc and her troops saved it. So some places said so it was 7 months that they had control of it, and in around 9 days they took it back. So they had 7 months and 9 days. That's a big difference. And it was her coming in and being like, let's go.
Yeah.
So this victory is still celebrated annually. So
cool.
it's still, there's still like a pretty big deal, like a pretty big celebration about it. While Charles allowed Joan to go on her mission, he didn't show complete trust in her advice or her opinions. So even though she had just done this thing in 9 days that they'd been trying to do for 7 months, he didn't really trust her completely. And part of that is because she was saying, like, go right now and get your crown. She was like, go right now. If you go right now, you will be the king. Go. And he's like, I'm kind of worried about it. And she's like, you should go right now. Like, she was very pushy about it. And he didn't go right away because he didn't really trust her. Because at the same time, it's still like this 18-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Don't really know what's going on. And she tried to hurry him to be crowned, and he was more cautious. And he was eventually crowned Charles VII on July 18th, 1429. And she occupied a visible place at his ceremonies. So she was like right there, like all the time with him. So she was like his right-hand woman. And he, kind of credited her for saving France because she said she would. She said God told her she would. It's
a nice sort of reversed. I guess it's almost like a sponsorship in a way.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like, or an endorsement.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this badass battle chick.
Yeah, like
she's on my side. She supports me.
Yeah, he was kind of like her patron, I guess, like the patron of the arts, one of those. It was kind of like that. Like he
was her de Medici.
Yeah, took her under his wing a little bit, but he still didn't really trust her very much. So for her exploits in leadership, she and her family were granted noble status, and she's also won the hearts of the French soldiers who looked up to her as like this mythical leader because they just heard stories about her, right? Like they just heard like, oh, that's the one that saved us from the English. Like that's the one that talks to God. So I mean. She, at that point, has received what would be, I guess, today, like a celebrity status. As you have all these rumors about this person, and they're super great and wonderful and lovely, and that's what you hear. So, things started going downhill for old Joan.
No. The arc started coming back down.
During a battle in the spring of 1430, Joan was thrown from her horse and left outside the town gates. She was then captured by a group of French nobles that were allied with the English, traitors, where she was held for several months as they attempted to negotiate a prize for her. So she stood as this kind of like really valuable propaganda prize, right? So if the English capture her, they can say, oh, we've got the one that speaks to God, and we've got the one who...
We've got your secret weapon.
Yeah, we've got your mascot. You know,
Right.
think about in high school sports games, people steal each other's mascots all the time.
Yeah.
She got stolen. They ended up exchanging her for 10,000 francs. And Charles VII...
It's a lot of hot dogs.
Yeah, they prefer Franklin. Unsure of what to do, he distanced himself from her and made no moves to have her rescued or released.
You just gave up.
He was like, all right, you got caught. Bye.
Yep.
You're
You've
on
lost
your
your
own.
value to me.
Yeah, you got caught. Bye. He already got what he wanted.
Right, yeah.
He became the crown prince.
He didn't care anymore.
He became the crown. So he didn't care. She was then put on trial by the pro-English bishop on a variety of charges, like around 70 total charges.
Jesus.
Over a period of time, they whittled them back down to like 12. But this included witchcraft and heresy.
Of course.
Yeah. She's really saucy. She had an attitude and she had a sharp tongue. And at one point she gave a warning to the bishop. And she said, "You say that you are my judge. I do not know if you are, but I tell you that you must take good care not to judge me wrongly, because you'll put yourself in great danger. I warn you, so that if God punishes you for it, I should have done my duty by telling you." In other words, if you hurt me and something happens to you, I've warned you.
I told you it'd happen.
If it comes back on you, you've been warned.
Yeah.
Like, so she basically told this dude, God's gonna get you.
God's coming for you.
God's gonna get you.
He's always got that thing on him, so
just get ready. So for about a month, she was interrogated nearly a dozen times, and she always kept her humility and claim of innocence. So something that's interesting, I say this all the time, something interesting, but something that I like that I found out about her, she had a pretty short fuse. Like, she had a pretty intense temper.
Yeah.
And
I mean, she was, what, 19?
Yeah, and she would get angry all the time. So even when they were, like, she was out with the soldiers, she would get mad at them for being disrespectful or cursing. She slapped a soldier across the face for stealing some meat once.
Hell yeah, she did.
She was not to be messed with, and they would like talk about her behind her back and all this stuff, and she'd get really mad about it.
Of course.
In one of her trial transcripts, when a clergyman with a thick regional accent asked what language the voices in her head spoke, so he's like, "So what language do the voices in your head speak?" She said to him, "French. Far better than you do."
That's awesome.
So she got...
Pulls out air horns.
Like, I mean, she got crapped on and she was like, whatever, I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm going to argue against you. Also, she started out as a peasant girl, so she had nothing to prove.
Right.
You know, like, she achieved noble status there for a little bit, but like, for the most part, like, she's like, whatever, I don't care. Like, God's protecting me. I don't care.
Nothing you can do to me will affect
Nothing's going to hurt me, yeah. So in one of her trial transcripts, she said that about him, about how they speak French better than you do.
That's awesome.
She also used her sword to swat away prostitutes and mistresses that would show up after the soldiers at her camp. So they would these traveling groups of like prostitutes and mistresses would like show up at camps because they could make bank.
Sure, of course,
with all these soldiers.
Yeah.
And she would come out there and swing her sword around at them and tell them to leave. And it said that she's probably poked a couple of them a couple times.
Oh, jeez.
But with her sword, but she never killed a man.
A man.
It's all coming full circle now. She serial killer. So she was offered life imprisonment in exchange for an admission of guilt, for them to say, like, just admit that you're a heretic. You can live in jail forever. And you'll still be alive, but you'll be in jail forever.
Yeah.
And at first, she signed a document that confessed her alleged sins, and she promised to change her ways. Except she was illiterate. So it's believed that people don't really know because she just put an X, and people think maybe they told her, if you sign this, you'll go free.
Right.
So she signed it, and it was basically saying, oh yeah, I definitely have been lying about the voices. I'm definitely not an emissary from God.
Right.
I have nothing. I've lied about everything.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't have been aware of that. So instead of being held in a church prison, she was held in a military one, which, oh no, that's horrible, because that means she's going to be getting threatened with rape and torture pretty much on the daily, because she's in a military prison.
Yeah, of course.
She's not being watched over by nuns, where she would have been watched over if she were in a church prison, but she was in a military prison, and they were jerks. Now, there's nothing in the historic record that kind of backs up the story, but it's kind of implied based on how rough life was and how rough those prisons were.
Yeah.
You kind of imagine. So she would tie her soldier's clothing tightly together with dozens of cords to protect herself. And when the angry judges who visited her would come back, she said that she heard voices again. So she's like, you know what? No, I signed a confession that I lied and stuff like that. But no, I didn't lie. And she's like, I heard the voices again. And they were frustrated they couldn't break her. Because that's what they wanted, was just to tear her down. So they considered her a, quote, relapsed heretic. Charged her, my stomach just growled, charged her with dressing like a man and sent her to the stake.
Wait.
Yeah. It was a crime to dress like a man. So that's what they got her for. Because they couldn't get her in for anything else. They couldn't get her for anything else, so they charged her with dressing like a man and sent her to her death.
I never knew that's what she died for.
Well, technically it was heresy. A lot of people think it was witchcraft. So a lot of people think it was witchcraft. Technically, it was heresy with those other ones thrown in. They kind of wanted to have like a little grouping of them so they could say like, yeah, she's a heretic, but also look at this other bad stuff she did, you know.
Yeah.
She was found guilty of heresy on May 29th, 1431. And the following morning, she was burned at the stake, dying about 19 years old in front of an estimated crowd of 10,000 people.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people at the time.
Yeah. All showing up just to watch. I'm imagining them like hanging out of building, like windows of buildings and stuff to see it. Now there's a legend it's pretty cool. It's not at all factual, but it's pretty cool.
Okay.
That states that her heart survived the fire unscathed. So like that the rest of her burned, but her heart was still there. But the reports say that the body was burned 2 to 3 times so that nobody would try to take anything like as a souvenir from her.
Gotcha.
So it's believed that they burned her body once, they removed the coals to show, like, she's right here, she's dead, and then they burned her body 2 or 3 more times after. So nobody could take any, like, pieces of whatever she had on her, like clothing or whatever. Right. They couldn't get anything of hers as a souvenir.
Yeah.
Her ashes were gathered and they were scattered in the Seine, in the river. There's some disagreement about what her last words were before she was burned at the stake. So according to historians, she said Jesus' name 3 times, like Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And someone else cited that she said, hold the crucifix up before my eyes so that I may see it until I die. So she, either way, she was going out pious. Like she was going out holding on to her faith, holding on to her religion. She never wavered in that. Like, she never wavered. So after her death, the war continued on for another 22 years, and eventually Charles VII ordered an investigation into Joan of Arc, and the charges against her were debunked, and a court authorized by the Pope, and they were dropped. But, like, how?
Yeah, how do you debunk or bunk those? Yeah. What's the opposite of debunking? Bunking?
I don't know. I've never
thought about it, but like
I've never had to debunk. Never had to debunk a bunk. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you prove or disprove any of those things.
At that point, she was declared a martyr.
Cool.
So she became a martyr, which is sad. Now she became a symbol of the Catholic League of France in the 16th century. Now follow me on this one.
I'm right here with you.
The Catholic League of France, sometimes referred to as the Holy League,
not the cloth,
right? Was a major participant in the French Wars of Religion. Now, the French Wars of Religion were a prolonged period of war between a popular unrest between Roman Catholics and Huguenots in the Kingdom of France between 1562 and 1598.
Is this what gave us Martin Luther? Is that this thing?
I think the treaties.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't remember.
The 96 treaties? 97?
Something like that.
90? We're bad people.
I don't remember. But it's estimated that 3 million people died during that time from violence, famine, or disease, and it's considered the second deadliest religious war in European history, and it's surpassed only by the 30 Years' War, which took 8 million lives.
Jesus.
Yeah, so...
That's so many, like, I think it's important to, or at least for me, to frame this in the time, because, like, 3 million people then is a whole lot more than 3 million people now per capita. Yeah. Or 8 million.
Yeah.
Like, those are ridiculous numbers.
The idea that 8 million people were even alive at that time without dying of something before they
made it to war.
Before they made it to a war is insane to me. Yeah. No, so she's remained a popular figure in literature, painting, sculpture, and other cultural works since the time of her death, and many famous writers, playwrights, filmmakers, artists, and composers have created and continue to create cultural depictions of her. There's also, I think, it was, what's his name? Mark Twain was obsessed with her, like wrote a bunch of stuff about her. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's out there. So did she hear God? I mean, probably not. Right?
Yeah.
In modern times, some doctors and scholars have, quote, diagnosed her with disorders ranging from epilepsy to schizophrenia. So during her trial, it's written down that she asserted a bright light often accompanied the visions and that she heard voices more distinctly when the bells sounded. Now, based on these details, some experts suggested that she suffered from one of numerous neurological and psychiatric conditions that would trigger hallucinations or delusions, which include but not limited to migraines, bipolar disorder, and even brain lesions, to name a few.
Jesus.
Yeah. Another theory holds that she contracted bovine tuberculosis, which can cause seizures and dementia from drinking unpasteurized milk and tending cattle as a young girl. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
She was a peasant girl that grew up around animals. It's very likely that she could have picked something up out of that. You never really know.
Yeah.
Now, I have a few fun facts for you.
Okay.
Several women posed as Joan in the years after her death, and her brothers even passed off a woman pretending to be Joan from 1434 to 1440, claiming that she escaped her execution. So this was apparently a really big deal. A bunch of people were saying, like, she's going to escape, she's going to be saved by God, she's going to get away, she's going to be fine, she's going to, you know, that's not really her that's going to be burned alive.
Right.
Like, she's going to get away. So they kind of cashed in on this. They cashed in on their sister's death by pretending she was still alive.
Yeah.
So them and a woman whose name was spelled Claude, but is probably not pronounced Claude, received lavish gifts and traveled from one festive reception to the next before the woman finally admitted their lie to none other than Charles VII. So she was like, hey, we've kind of been doing this thing and we're sorry, but we've kind of been really crappy people. And then, you know, it was like, cool, just don't do that.
Just stop.
Just don't be that way.
Stop it.
Yeah, stop that. But a lot of women were pretending to be Joan of Arc after she passed away, and even a lot of women who had psychiatric issues started to think, well, maybe mine is God speaking to me. So that became something, you know, like, well, I'm hearing voices too. That's the voice of God. And then some people thought that they were the reincarnation of her, and all of this stuff.
Sure.
She's responsible for inspiring the bob haircut.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it originated in Paris in 1909, and it became a hit in the 1920s for U.S. flappers and film stars.
Hell yeah.
So there was this really, like, well-to-do hairstylist who said that he was inspired by Joan of Arc and, like, started cutting people's very long hair very short in the bob style, and it became huge. Like, it became a huge hit, and it was inspired by her. At the behest of Joan's mother, Pope Calixtus III,
awesome name,
authorized for retrial for Joan to determine whether the initial trial was just and adhered to ecclesiastical law or not. I'm going to go on record and say it probably didn't. You called her a witch and you burned her alive. I don't think that
probably not great.
I don't know. I mean, Jesus and I don't really talk anymore, but I don't think that's his bag, you know? Like, I don't think his thing is like, she's a witch, burn her.
Yeah, not his MO usually.
Yeah, not normally his thing. The church began investigations in 1452, and in 1456, she was found innocent, and that's when they proclaimed her a martyr.
What did they do for those 4 years?
Right? Like, what kind of research did you have to do?
I imagine it was somebody just really stalling.
There's somebody going around going, do you think it happened? Do you think it happened? Do you think it happened? These guys said they don't think it happened.
We're good.
I think she's good. I think we could make her... She's probably a martyr, right? Yeah, let's just put her down.
Good.
Listen, I got a 2 o'clock. Let's just go ahead and put her down as a martyr. I'll see you guys. 3-day weekend. You guys have a good night.
We got Arbor Day on Monday.
Yeah, we got Arbor Day. Can't miss that. I'm going down the river and get drunk. See you later. And that dude just leaves. She was found innocent and proclaimed a martyr. So her mom had wanted this to happen.
Of course.
So it was too late for Joan of Arc, but her mom lived to see her name get cleared.
Cool.
So that's kind of a nice little bow on the end of it, I guess.
Yeah.
And she's a saint now. And she's considered a martyr.
And we know about her.
And we know about her, and we're talking about her now. You know about her too.
Yeah.
So that's Joan of Arc.
That's really cool. All I knew of Joan of Arc was sort of I think everybody kind of, it's that cultural osmosis thing, right? Where it's like everybody kind of knows about her.
A little bit, yeah.
And you've seen different depictions in like skits, or in my case, Bill and Ted. But like, I feel like she has sort of this, she's perpetuated throughout culture. But I didn't know any of any of that really.
I didn't know.
I thought she fought. I had no idea.
Same. So like when that was something else. Is when I was looking up information about her, I started looking up like paintings of her and like depictions that have been done of her. And every time she's in armor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I picture her in armor. Yeah.
The majority of time she's in armor, which she did wear armor, but she never fought in war, which is, I always imagined her in the front lines with like a sword, like slashing people down.
Yeah, same.
That's what I always imagined when I heard about her. And it's kind of cooler to me to think that she wasn't.
Me too.
Like that she stuck to this, I'm not gonna, like, because it was a sin to kill a man. So she was like, nope, not gonna do it. You guys go ahead. I'm gonna cheer you on. But I'm not going to do it.
I love that she was just the strategy.
Yeah, and and they said there were a lot of the generals that were actually super surprised by her and her memory because she was illiterate. So she couldn't read the plans, but she would remember them. So she would come up with all of these really nice battle plans and strategies, and then she would just remember them.
That's cool.
So because she couldn't read. So she would just have them in her brain, and when they were asking her questions about it, she's like, oh yeah, we're going to come from this side or whatever.
Yeah.
And she would just remember, which is... That's really impressive.
Yeah,
First of all, for an 18-year-old girl 18-year-old woman who hears what she thinks is the voice of God and decides to act on it.
Yeah.
And like goes into war knowing full well that
her confidence is incredible.
Yeah, she had a very strong will and she had a very short temper, and I think that probably kept her alive as long as it did. Yeah. And then ultimately she's killed by the patriarchy, so big surprise. No, but she was a really interesting character. I wanted to talk about a really strong female character because I feel like there's a lot of news that's kind of a bummer right now, and it was nice to read about a strong woman that led a bunch of people to safety. And
like, even for me, because this honestly, like, European history is not my strong suit.
Ding ding ding. Same.
Like, for me to imagine that this is like 300, this is a culture that is 300 years before like America's independence and stuff, like that is crazy to me. Like, because knowing about what women went through in the late 1700s, early 1800s,
right?
This was 300 years before that,
right?
And for her to have succeeded in the way she did is astronomical. Like,
the fact that she even got to speak to Charles. Exactly. Is like mind-blowing because the fact that she even got to like be in the court of the king at that time, and her being that young, that's wild. That she managed to get that far, even if she had been a charlatan. Like she managed to get that far on her like confidence and on her like people liked her, and she had a good personality, and people like, you know, she had God on her side as far as she was concerned. But like that was still a really huge accomplishment for somebody of her stature, being a peasant, to end up standing next to the king. Like, I
mean, kudos to the guy who got her the appointment in a way, right? He changed history.
Yeah, he was like, all right, fine,
and
whatever.
That act,
and that's and that's what got her there. Yeah,
a legitimate, real, mythical character.
Yeah, an actual human who has so much lore and
I don't know how to say it, but
yeah, she's got so many stories around her that you're not really sure what's what. So that in and of itself is kind of neat because she kind of surpasses like just a historical telling of her. Like the story of her is so much more interesting.
Yeah, when the legend becomes fact, not the legend. Exactly.
Super cool. She was a really cool character.
Yeah, that was really cool.
She's cool to read about. You were talking about European history not being great. I fell asleep in my European history class once, and I sat in the front, and I was writing notes, and I wanted to really look like I was still writing notes. And I was like half asleep, and I woke up and I wrote pizza.
That's awesome.
It was like the battle of scribble, 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 pizza. And and then when I woke up, I looked at it and I started laughing really hard, but I was like trying to hold it in because I was like surprised by I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And I was laughing really hard, and sure enough, I got in trouble.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not the battle of pizza after all.
Not the battle of pizza, the battle of how Lidi got in trouble in European history class.
Got her groove back.
But you know what? What if we were talking about Italy?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a place where pizza happens.
Pizza's there.
Pizza exists there.
Pizza's there.
Pizza's worldwide now.
Ah, man, I wish I would have thought. Let's go back like 45 years when I was in high school, and let's be, you know what? Teach.
Hey, yo, teach.
Hey, yo, teach.
Up your nose with a rubber hose. It's a very modern
Sit
reference.
and spin, because pizza was in Italy. Sit on it. Ain't that what they said? Sit on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sit and spin was the little toy. Yeah.
Well, no, this guy could have sat and spun.
Oh.
This was a mean guy.
Ayo, teach. Liddy, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Team Liddy. Where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Dormstrings. Hey, I did. If you're listening to the audio, I have a shirt on that says my name.
Speaking of this beautiful shirt, you can find it at
designedbyhumans.com/shop/Liddy and Dorm.
I think so.
I think that's right.
If you ever need to know, just come into our chat and exclamation point
or
merch.
It'll be in the description of the YouTube
or
video.
it's in the description. God, he made it so easy for you. Go find it.
I think that's right. I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, I think it's right too. But Dorm just released another shirt.
Hey,
and it looks fantastic.
Thanks. It's the it's like if you've ever gotten takeout from a cheap restaurant.
And it just says thank you.
It's the thank you bag,
yeah,
but it says Dorm Streams.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thanks.
I saw it today at work and went.
I saw it today.
Today, my robot came out. I saw it today at work, and I literally was like, "Oh!" And then I retweeted it, and I said, "Yo!"
You did. That is what you said.
It was very good. It was very good.
Speaking of which, we also have Twitter.
We also have Twitter. We've got Instagram. We have Snapchat.
Uh-huh.
He's got a YouTube.
Yeah.
He's got a patron.
God, I'm being.
Be a patron.
Yeah.
Patron the boy.
Patronize me.
Patron the boy.
That was the joke we made last time.
That's good. Yeah.
We also have Discords.
Yeah, we have Discords. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as active in my Discord as I could be.
We also have these mic stands now, which means I can do this.
We also have these mic stands now, which means we can move them. Oh my god, next time I'm just gonna sit like... Oh, I almost hit myself in the face.
You look like you might hit your head.
I'm gonna just sit back like this.
That'll be great for the camera.
I'm just gonna have...
You could literally just see your hair.
Oh, what a world. Technology's amazing.
What a wonderful world. See trees of green. Red roses too.
Is this how the episode ends?
Red roses too.
Oh, he's doing the meme version.
Red roses
oh my god, somebody save me. I hate this one. I'm gonna knock over your cup so that you have to panic.
Until next time.
Be careful where you click.